Okay, now that we have a quorum, that's my breath. No. It's okay. I appreciate you made it.
Yes.
Everybody here appreciates you made it.
7 months and I do it again.
And maybe like between.
This is the song. I think that's first.
So, Jackson, I don't know if you started streaming.
You did.
Thank you.
We're live.
We're going to thank everybody again for their patience and call the meeting of the Historic Preservation and Architectural Review Board of the Village of Cooperstown to order at 5:07 p.m. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing regarding the proposed demolition at 87 Beaver Street, the front porch demolition. Is anybody here to speak to that item on the agenda? Jackson, do you have anybody online?
If not,
And have you received any communications? Okay, we're gonna leave the public hearing open since the application we'll leave number 1 on the regular agenda open. If anybody comes into the meeting who needs to talk, we'll give them an opportunity to do that. We'll move on to item number 2, 5138 Averill Road, Bassett Healthcare. And would you like to come up?
Hi, my name is Joe Carino. I'm an architect. I'm here with Kendra Ruchpapero and Bob Felicki. Sorry, again, can't see it behind the board. But we were here last month to talk about the project, which is a 36 apartment unit development with 2 clusters of townhomes with 6 units in each and 12 24 unit apartment building with 12 in each floor. It's only a 2-story building. So we these drawings to you. We've gone through planning board, we've gone through the board of trustees to get a special permit. And so now we're back. Our plans are tweaking. We haven't gotten our mechanical engineers on board yet. So some of our floor plans might be tweaking, might be changing a little bit. But the elevations, the renderings, the materials that we're planning to use are set. We don't have the exact color selections made yet. So, we are looking for a certificate of appropriateness. We understand if if this is a working session, we need to come back. We understand that, but we do, we would like to go through and show you what we're planning. So I just want to go through this board. This is the rendering of the apartment building, and this is the townhome. So extendedly. Here's the rendering of the townhomes, looking at the 3 separate buildings in the courtyard. Each unit would have, it's a 2-story unit. They'll have an access on the side and a little porch. Each one will have a porch. They'll enter into this porch and go into this unit, and then around and into this unit. As you know, we're kind of emulating that front layover, and this is very similar to what Bassett had done there. Kind of looking at that as kind of what some of the architectural detail, very classic and not too basically a classic colonial look. Here's 2 renderings of the apartment building. There's a straight on view, and this would be actually looking south, where this is the parking lot. Averill Road will be behind this building. And here's a little bit of another rendering showing the entrance to that building. So one of the things that we had talked about was the height, and I know there's a 30-foot maximum height. When we came last time, we had shown much flatter roofs, a 4-on-12 pitch. And we were basically making the tops of the chimneys at 29 foot 11 inches, just under that. But we, talking to Jackson, the actual definition of to get the height of a building goes to the average height of the roof, if it's a pitched roof. So basically it goes to the center of that roof would be our building height. So, if you go to Fern Layover, those roofs are about 8-on-12. There's a double of 4-on-12 of what we showed in that rendering. And I think a steeper pitch roof, if you go around the village, is much more in keeping with the village character than a flatter 4-on-12 pitch roof. Most of the residences around the village have a much steeper pitch roof. Here, to keep it in that closer range, we made them all 6-on-12 now, so we're changing that from a 4-on-12 to a 6-on-12, thinking that it'll look better. It's going to be more in keeping with the character of the village. And with this change in our roof, we end up at an average height for the townhomes at 25 feet 11. So we're well under the 30 feet based on the definition of the average height. So that's one of the changes that we made since that last time we were here. The other change is we added some concrete patios, 10 by 12 concrete patios for each unit, so that they could have some, a space to enjoy that those nice woods out there. So we're not going to have patios. We're going to have a communal patio for the apartment building, and we've gone through that site plan. And I did bring a site plan, but I just had the architectural drawings here. We can go through the site plan if you need to, but we do have some patios and areas for people to congregate for the apartment buildings. But here, these are all going to be townhomes, and we're just going to have each one's going to get a 10 by 12 patio. So that's something that we had since the last time we were here. But just to go over this again, these are 2-story units, 2-story, 2-bedroom townhomes here, and then the 2 in the back are going to be big so that you could have a handicap accessible bedroom on the first floor. So they're 3-bedroom and handicap accessible, so that even though they are kind of towards the back of the construction, you still have a relatively flat sidewalk that could go to their unit. And then this would be a handicap accessible bathroom and bedroom, and this will be handicap accessible, these 2, I should say. So, so you're going to have 4 3-bedroom units and 8 2-bedroom units for each in each cluster. So so now we started listing all materials. The exterior siding is going to be a hardy plank. This is what we're planning, and this is the product. We haven't selected the colors yet, but as you can tell from our renderings that you just saw, they're going to be kind of in this. All of our trim is going to be white, so that's going to be a hardware. I don't know if you want to pass this around, or because if you guys have seen them, or
I don't need to see it. Are you thinking smooth or grained?
I'm thinking probably smooth. Yep. And roofs are just going to be a timberline, GAF or CertainTeed. The asphalt shingle will be an architectural 30-year shingle, which we see pretty much as common. Windows, we weren't going to go with a wood window. We were going to go with a fiberglass window. And there's 2 products out there that we're looking at right now. We're not sure, but here we labeled it all as Marvin. We're going to go with a Marvin, and this is the Essential. This is a double hung window. And upside down. This is the sill. And they'll have screens as well, but insulated windows. We also have, there's a Anderson 100 series, very similar. So we're not sure exactly what product we're gonna use, but it will be a fiberglass, double hung insulated unit.
And you're
And
going
white.
with simulated divided lights?
We're gonna have simulated divided lights as, in our, in all of our units. I should put that. This is right, but, so the apartment building, very similar, same materials. We want these to look like they go together. And after we changed the slope to the roof, just like we did on the others, on the townhomes, we end up at the average height for this one, being a little bit bigger building, is actually 29 feet 5 inches for the average height. So we do stay under that 30 to the average height of the roof. And we're planning on doing the same types of windows and the same type of siding and materials. We are going to have gutters. I forgot to mention the gutters. We are going to have gutters, but only where we really need them at the front. We're not planning on guttering the whole structure. We're planning on guttering the areas and all entrances, any place like that. We're gonna have gutters, and all the trim will be white, similar to the rendering. All our downspouts and our gutters will also be white, and there'll be aluminum, probably a K series gutter. There's a plan. Floor plan for the two apartment floors are here. This is the first floor. Going to have an entry with mail room, mechanical space, a fitness center, possibly. We'll see, and a community room. On the other end, we're going to have two rated stairs for fire stairs to go out, and we're going to have this area here will be unrated, but this will be a communicating stair. So by code, we're just going to need 2 exits, and so that works. One side, we're going to have a water room, and this is one of the things we need to do. And this was shown on our site plans that we presented, is we need to build a water tower up above our site. And so that water is going to be pumped up to the water tower from our municipal water system. And then it's going to come down to our buildings by gravity, but they will come into a water room and have a RPZ or a backflow preventer in there. And then these buildings will be all sprinklered, so we need to have that service. So one of these rooms, this room will be a water room, and then we also now decided to actually have a room for like bike storage or storage. So that's what we're planning on the first floor. As I said, we're just getting our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers on board, and we're going to talk about heating systems. We had talked about trying to use a geothermal system, but we still have not been able to get our geotechnical engineer up there. He's going to need to get up there and dig some wells, and we're going to have to figure out what can be done. But that's what we're thinking. It's going to be either a forced air furnace type system, or heat pumps. Could be a water-to-water heat pump or air-to-air heat pump. But what we have planned right now is each unit will have a mechanical space for that furnace, heat pump, space for a hot water heater. But most of these are going to be 1 bedrooms, and then we're going to have some of them are going to be 2. So on each floor, you're going to have 4 2 bedrooms and 8 1 bedrooms. So overall, the 8 And 16, total number in the building will be 8 2-bedroom units and 16 1-bedroom units. No balconies are planned. Each unit will have a washer and dryer stack set up, a stackable washer and dryer. That's about it. Do you have any questions?
I have a couple of questions. One comment. This place is completely divorced except from the village visually. The house that's across the way has been so heavily remodeled over time that it has very little sense of history of its own. It is considered a listed building within the district, but it's a hodgepodge.
Yeah.
Many buildings are hodgepodges. I don't think that under the circumstances, you really need to speak a whole lot to the historic architecture of the village as a result. Or a half mile from the nearest building that is relatively intact, historically speaking.
Sure.
So I don't have any trouble with the idea of non-lit windows, because this is a place that's going to be transients, and non-wood windows don't fare well under those circumstances. Also, I mean, you can talk all you like about Anderson and Peachtree and all of them, but most of them use finger joint, and they don't hold up.
Right.
They're a misery. If you want good windows, you need to use old windows, 100-year-old windows. So I would say perfectly fine with me to do what you're doing. One of the things that comes to mind that's related to the historic thing is there was a mention in the public meeting for the special use permit about wanting to include lighting, exterior lighting that looked historic. I would urge you to reconsider. Be honest about this building. It's a new building. And I think you should be using things that reflect that. For parking lot lighting, I realize they probably do need to be held a little higher up. Simple Integrity is just opened. It's Chestnut Crossing. Their sidewalk lighting is as high off the ground, which is plenty, and that will reduce the amount of light that's radiating out from this place.
Sure.
Because this will be the only thing hovering on a mountaintop or a hilltop anywhere except for Haggerty Road development, which is a very different development. Every place here. Nobody designs hilltop developments, and certainly not on this scale, pretty much in the entire county. So it'll really show if that light radiates up in a way that's, I think, quite inappropriate from an overall historic standpoint. I'm the one who wrote the Glass National Register Historic District, and so I have a pretty strong sense of what a historic landscape surrounding our lake looks like. This is the only place where there'll be lights up high, so I would really urge the most modern choices that allow you to face that light down and keep the lights low where it's not essential to have them being the height of the first floor.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my two thoughts that sort of come to mind from what you talked about to me.
So the lighting we were planning to use, we haven't selected a fixture for the building yet, and we do plan on doing like a wall sconce.
I would go simple.
Yeah, and probably, in each porch, we're gonna have some very simple wall sconces here. We didn't show them yet, we haven't selected them yet, but something here that's gonna be under that roof and same there. And then we had planned talking about, to use a very similar historical type fixture that I think they were, what, about 10 feet tall or 12 feet tall, something like that. So what you're saying is, don't focus on the historic nature. Let's make sure it's a.
This is its own development.
Yeah.
It's so physically divorced from anything that's going on.
Yep, I agree. Yep.
And I would really urge simplicity for ease of maintenance. LEDs for certain, because.
Oh, yeah. Everything will be.
I remember the last time I bought a light bulb. It's a long time. It's years since I bought a light bulb.
Yeah.
But I think that acknowledging that this is a new development through its exterior presentation makes more sense to me than trying to pretend it's.
Yeah, so something's old that's been around for 100 years or something, right? Okay.
That's my 2 cents. If nobody ever designed new stuff, we wouldn't have bungalows, we wouldn't have four squares, we wouldn't have Italianate, we wouldn't have Greek revival, we wouldn't have federal houses. We might have Georgian revivals, but not in this area, so I'm working my way back through the architectural historical time. And we wouldn't have mid-century modern if people hadn't innovated, and so this is an opportunity to be restrained and innovative at the same time. And that's what I would urge you to do as much as possible with the design. Slope roofs make sense because of snow load in this part of the world. So I don't think you want to go back to an Italian flat roof, but but I think that restraint and simplicity, a sense of sort of clean line is more important than pretending that this is something historic, which
Right.
it really isn't.
Right. And we did try to keep some clean lines and we did, that's kind of where we were going with it, not too many gables and not too many different materials. We've been, faux stone is everywhere now. Everybody's putting it on the bases and stuff like that.
I'm looking at a porch, not in my neighborhood, where someone just covered the whole bottom edge of a wooden porch with faux stone. It's floating this far above the road surface.
Love that.
And it makes no sense.
Right.
Nobody would ever put a stone foundation under a wood porch on a wood house.
Or you see the stone above, high up, and there's wood below it. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Stone is supposed to be holding that up. So yeah, we did not want to do any of that, and we're trying to keep it simple. But we thank you for those comments. We definitely will, keep those. And is there any?
Well, I guess, since we ended on foundations, my question is, do these pretty accurately reflect the kind of topography of the site? Or are we gonna see some field changes with more reveal of foundations because of slope, etc.?
Wish I would have brought the site plan, but so each one of these clusters, one is on one side of the street, the other's on the other side of the street. As you know, there's a hill that comes down and it slopes towards the street. This is reflective of one of them, very accurate. Okay, and as you can see, we have steps here, it's flush up here. The one on the other side of the street is gonna be flipped. So we're gonna try to make that flat because our handicap accessible unit is in the back.
So we're gonna deal with it.
Yeah, so we're gonna deal with the grade. So the one on the other side will probably be flat all the way across with maybe a step here, and then we're gonna start kind of keep. So this is very accurate for that one side, and we still haven't kind of thought about those grades 100% yet. I mean, we're gonna do we're gonna have to do an elevation for each one of these buildings. Our floor plans are gonna be so similar, we'll probably have one set of floor plans for both those buildings for the contractors. But the elevation and the foundations are gonna be different. So we will have for for our building permit, when we come in for building permit, we are gonna have another set for that other building.
But based on the comment you just gave, Jesse, you're planning a pretty minimalist treatment of the foundation.
Absolutely, yes. It's just gonna be parged CMU, or actually probably cast in place concrete with a parging on it.
That makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Nobody's really talking about how long that faux stone lasts, but I can't imagine it's gonna last more than 5 years. Oh,
Yeah.
I just, it's. Be honest, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Be honest with what you're doing. It would be the way I would go.
We're trying to do that and think.
Honest with high quality materials that will give you the durability that you're gonna need. This is gonna be remote to maintain.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a challenge for people who are maintaining it, just simply because of the roads, and it's so far from hospital.
Yeah.
Where the hospital maintenance is based. So.
That's fine.
So I actually did do some walking and some looking, and the closest route from here to Bassett is 1.5 miles on village streets. But it can push up to 1.8, depending on if you use a more heavily used route, which would be appropriate for larger Naples. You're looking at, it's not a short distance.
Yeah.
And so, and it will feel like a very long distance on the day when this is completely covered in ice. And it will happen because we're getting warmer, so we see more ice and less snow.
Dave, did you have any questions?
Do not, and actually, you know,
Right.
a Bassett employee, I'll be abstaining.
George, did you have any questions?
I have a curiosity question. It's kind of a little off to the side. We'll be taking down a number of trees out there.
Yeah.
What's the plan for the trees that come down?
So we hired an arborist to go up there and Bob could speak a little bit more about this. Bob went up there with our arborist and there are a lot of trees that that forest was not really maintained well, and there's a lot of trees that are dying and falling over, and trees that should be this big or this big because they're just not, you know, they got wet feet or whatever, they just don't, they're not doing well. So we are gonna have to cut, you know, obviously remove the trees that are laying down, the dead trees. We are planning to remove the trees that are in our building's way and the road's way. We're trying to maintain as many of the existing trees as possible. But when they went up there last time, they were like, a lot of these trees just need to go and replant better. So I don't know, Bob, you want to speak to that?
You asked about what we plan on doing with what we
Are they
do.
gonna be transported, you know, the trees that have fell, are they gonna be transported down the hill, or?
Mulch, probably.
Everything we're talking right now is grinders or chippers. Repurposing the material back into the development, using them possibly along where we're gonna have our retention basin berm to help elevate that even higher. Mixing them right in as organic matter and back into the soils to repurpose them. Right now, we don't want to haul anything off. That's just such a huge expense with the volume of material that we have.
My concern was, you know, tens of thousands of pounds of trees coming down that, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, additional trips up and down where the transportation of them, the number of loads that you have to have coming off, we'd like to keep them right on the site.
Okay, again, like I said, more of a curiosity question.
Yeah, that's the plan so far.
That's the goal.
You know, if we find that there's an issue, then, you know, we'll react to that at the time, but that's the goal, is to keep all those chips up there or whatever, you know, or whatever we take down or mulch, keep it there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, any more questions, George? Jackson, anything else you want to bring to our attention, Bill, that we have not appropriately addressed?
Can't think of anything currently. I guess I would mention that even with some of the low downlight landscape lighting on some new developments in the village, even with those, we've gotten complaints from folks of them bouncing off the asphalt and just being, they're clustered too densely. So it's a whole issue that they're trying to figure out.
We do have, actually, when we were here for the planning board, we did have a we had a lighting analysis done with the lights that we plan to use. And, you know, how many foot candles for the whole property, and none of it spilled over off our property, and it was all, you know, dark sky compliant and pointing downwards. So to get the certificate of appropriateness, you know, if we can't do that tonight, if it's gonna wait for the next, you know, what am I missing here? What do we need to get that? Obviously, we need our drawings. I'm showing you the materials. Do you need a colors selected by them? No, okay. Do we need the light fixtures shown, or and should I include the site plan showing those fixtures?
The light fixtures, in my opinion, can come as a field change when you've identified them, if we determine that we can issue a certificate tonight.
Yeah.
So the fixtures and the plan for locations can be proposed as a field change. Unless somebody else has a hesitation about that.
And that's what I would recommend.
Okay.
As well.
I think there's a proposal now to include a play structure on the site. Is that something that H part would wish to review? Or
We've we've maybe once seen the proposal for a play structure, and there are lots in the village that have gone up, so I don't.
Actually, there aren't that many in the village, which is why we put the one in back. 30 or 40 years worth of people who have moved here with small children are like, where's the playground? There wasn't one. So that's one of the reasons that's there, but we did not bring that plan to.
Because it's a village property.
Right, it's a village property. Honestly, I was the one who was the head of the board at that time. And I think we kind of just blithely went ahead, which is kind of shocking to me now, but it was a long time ago.
The Parks Board weighed
Yeah.
in, and so
Did they-
it went up to the trustees.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was the head of the Friends of the Parks at that time, but yeah, but you know, it's in an isolated place, it was already a playground. We were enhancing the situation. There isn't a ton of space in what you're drawing for doing something as big as that. The wisdom of my guess is that we would want to focus on toddler age kids, in part because those are the ones who are going to be on the space during the day. The ones who are at school have access to other playground areas. So, but
I don't think we need an approval.
yeah,
on
I don't think you do either. I think that you really need to talk to someone who designs that kind of stuff.
Yes, we
Um,
our site engineer, Scott Freeman from Keplinger Freeman, you know, he's been presenting to the planning board and the board of trustees, and they've done lots of playgrounds for schools, and you know, we will, you know, be presenting that to our next planning board meeting, showing that materials and the equipment. It's not going to be a very big playground. We'll probably have 3. You know, maybe a swing set or, you know, something to climb on, and, you know, we're not gonna have the spinny thing that everybody.
Yeah.
I know, we can't even get those, and those are my favorite.
I was heard something. The development is not contributing, the playground is reversible. There, you know, but the reasons we would not need to weigh in.
Okay, great.
As long as it falls within the zoning regulations of not being higher than 30. But unless Jackson, you disagree, I don't see a need for
I agree.
a playground to come for us. As long as it fits into all the other boards parameters, it's fine.
Would this board have any other questions regarding the hardscaping curb materials? Do you want to know if it's cut, stone, or concrete, or is it considered landscaping?
I think it's considered landscaping,
Sidewalk
and
edges?
again, because this is not a contributing site, we see the level of detail and quality and attention to detail you're putting into the structures. I can't imagine the hardscaping is gonna escape that detail as well.
No, it's gonna be detailed well.
I'm comfortable with it.
Any other questions or thoughts? That Dave is recusing. We do have enough people to make a motion. George or Jesse, would either of you be willing to make a motion this evening? And if you're not, we can talk about why not.
Make a motion, but I'm not very good at this making a motion. Is it not?
Thank you, Dave.
I'm feeling a little scatterbrained at the moment, and you might be able to. This was not what I expected to spend my January doing. So, okay, I move that we issue a certificate of appropriateness for the Averill Road development by the asset hospital. Okay.
Can I just clarify that it's by the Templeton Foundation?
Templeton Foundation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now my question here is, since this is we are actually looking at something that is a non-historic, non-contributing property, how do we apply these principles of compatibility?
Good question.
Because this is a new building in a place where it has no close relations. So, the principles of compatibility are all really based on the idea that it's fitting into a place. But it really isn't fitting into a place. So what do we do with that? Sorry, I got started and then I kind of fell over.
Yeah,
We can talk about five energy efficiency and.
We can certainly talk about that. We do hope that it will be energy efficient. And it does have accessibility, so it is appropriate under 5. Unlikely to run into archaeology up there. So we're doing, okay, so under 1, number 2. It's not nothing under 2. Nothing under 3. I suppose that it's 3. It is a probably general design character and appropriateness to the property, the proposed new construction. So 3A. Would be, I still have trouble with scale. Texture and composition of building material for building are was it brick, stone, or other materials. There's nothing there because they're not close to other buildings in the neighborhood. Visual compatibility. So let's jump to 4. So we had 2 C. Well, no, 3A. 3A was the first one. Okay, 4. Sorry, I'm stumbling through this because it's really tricky to apply these criteria.
The one I see that makes sense was 4I, Jesse. So let's see if you think about that one.
4I is new additions, exterior alterations, and new construction shall not destroy the source materials, features, and spatial relationships that characterize a building. That
Yeah.
it's all new construction. I think really we go from
4J. The additions or adjacent or related new construction shall be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the building structure and property would be unimpaired.
leveled, reforested. Just a couple of I think we're at, I have the one for, I had, what number did I have? 3A? Okay, I think 3A and 5 is really all that I'm able to say feels close to the mark. And 5 is about energy efficiency. And its primary accessibility considerations, which some of the units will be health and safety code considerations, sprinklers, retaining pond, etc., that you could fight a fire with, and it will meet the modern code, building code ADA. So number 5, it's new construction in a place that has really got almost no building. Does that work? Good enough.
We sticking with 3A and 5?
Yep, 3A and 5.
That final answer.
It's transient, it is my final answer.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. Liz votes yes.
Yes, we are.
Yes, George, yes.
Thank you, George. With David abstaining. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't ask if there's any discussion. Again. Okay. Thanks everybody else for your patience. We're gonna move on to 14 Elm Street.
Hunter.
Hey Dan, how are you? I'm doing very well. How are you? Good, thanks. Would you like to tell us about what you'd like to do?
Sure. I will basically echo everything that you have in front of you. We're going to have 2 field changes. Talk about those first.
Yep.
Basically just 2 windows that are currently in the building right now that we'd like to remove because they don't line up with the floor plans for the interior of the house. One window being on the first floor in the rear of the building.
On the south side, correct?
Is that the south side?
The south side is.
South side is the street, isn't it? So I guess it'd be the west side. Yeah, that window is in the kitchen. And it just doesn't, if with that window there, we don't have the ample wall space for both a refrigerator as well as more importantly, actually a stove that we need, penetrations for venting and such that we need for that. So we would love to remove that window as it just doesn't line up with the floor plan that we need to use inside the house. So that window is very minimally seen from the street, being in towards the rear of the house, if that matters. But that was the first of the field changes we'd like to make. Any questions on that one before we proceed to the second one?
I didn't recollect that we talked about, once we got into the L, our concerns were far lower than
Yeah.
the main block.
And that is in that rear
Yeah,
L of the building.
and what is the, what was the existing window? It's no longer here.
It was, I mean, it's never been there so long as we've owned the property. It was destroyed in the fire, I would imagine. But it was, assuming it's the same size as all the other windows in the building, so I'm assuming it was just a 6/6 like the other windows in the front.
So are you planning to do another fenestration in that particular spot, or are you basically gonna
Nope.
just make it a blank wall with
Yep.
the penetration?
Yep. So you can see on that picture, there's like those 3 green windows. Those are staying, although you have black and white. So the gray windows,
Yeah, well, they're,
the windows, the shorter, the kitchen windows, the shorter windows, those are gonna be above the sink, right where they are. We're not touching those. But then after that, going towards the rear of the buildings, all gonna be wall. Just with we'll fill in the space with the matching clapboard as is with the rest of it. So it won't exist at all. So you won't even see that there was something there before.
Does anybody else have any questions about that window replacement?
it's not a replacement. It's a
Oh, right, it's
window.
removable. I apologize. And then the other window is a second floor window?
Yeah, the window on the second floor, up and to the right of where that first window is, it's a kind of an odd shaped, narrow window, that is just, as we're laying out that back quadrant of that portion of the house, it could be the master bedroom and a walk-in closet and the bathroom. And what we desire to do there, just to have that many windows in that span of space. It's in the way. What we'd like to do, so very similar to like downstairs, we're going to make sure it does not exist, so it'll just be the clapboard covering it over. But I did point out, as you have in figure 3, there's actually the same layout as upstairs. I'm sorry, on the that's the west, on the opposite side, which is the east. It's going to be the same layout as on the east side, where that narrow window doesn't exist. So it'll be a very similar look on both sides.
There's such an irony about calling windows away in buildings that were seeking to light themselves using daylight, which is the most green way to light a building. But I see what you're thinking. I'm not sure that middle window, it could be an opening that was there pretty early for just that reason, to light a room more completely, especially because it's south face.
It's possible.
I sort of.
Also west face, but.
Yeah, sorry, west, I apologize. So it's getting the afternoon, so.
And obviously the previous floor layout would have been entirely different than the Blake slate that we were left with to try to determine how to lay it out. And like I said,
Turn into a luxury home.
yes, to turn to a luxury home, but really with that whole area, we'd like to turn to the master bedroom, being that is like that's the nicest corner of the house to be able to oversee the ballparks in the back. And so between, bedroom and walk-in closets and the bathroom that we would like to have up there is just this too little wall space to have the walls that we need in the area, to have to lay out walls in between windows. And that window doesn't match any of the other windows in the entire house.
It looks like it's the same width as the one to the right.
Nope, that one's only, that, all the rest of them were 6/6. That one's only a 4/4. Or was only a 4/4. I can't remember if there's, yeah, okay, so no, the grill's still there. It is a 4/4.
Huh. What the story was there. But, okay. Fine. Just, this is a curiosity question. I've never actually gotten inside this building, so I don't know what it looks like. Is there evidence that the rear L was a single story to begin with rather than 2 stories?
No, it's got the same, it has the same framing that goes up throughout the entire,
Okay.
so I can't tell any, there's no breaking walls that would show that there was a sill plate, I mean, a ceiling plate for the first floor.
And again, both of these are on that rear L, so
Yeah.
not the street facing, original.
I would love to see the ones in the main L, in the main building stay.
Yep.
Stay, but
Every one of those are staying.
the backs, the back L is so butchered anyway. And really took the brunt of the fire. Okay.
Dave Strogatz, do you have any questions?
No.
George, do you have any questions? Okay. Jesse, did you have any more questions about the window? We're doing this in segments.
No, well, I guess you didn't mention, well, these are both removals, so there's going to be no new windows, these are just.
Yes. Those are both removals.
Infill with clevers.
Mhm.
Yeah. So basically it'll become a much blanker wall than it is currently.
And I think that's the hardest thing. It's gonna be a lot of wall, but we understand what you're
Since
trying.
I live next to the Blue Mariah, yeah. No, but yeah, it is hard, the other side doesn't have a lot of windows either. But, with modern services and demand for high-end housing. Kind of even people live in the dark unless they turn the lights on even the full day.
Okay. So we'll vote on this one and then you can tell us about the other, okay? So would anybody like to make a motion regarding the removal of the 2 windows on the west side of the rear L at 14 Elm Street?
Sure.
Thanks, Dave.
So I move that HPAR provide a certificate of appropriateness for window removals plan at 14 Elm Street under criteria 2B, 2C, 3A, 3C, and 5.
Thank you. Would anybody like to second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I did have one question, but this just came to mind. You're cutting out a lot of access points or exit points, I guess I would say. What are your fire retreat plans for losing 2 more windows?
That's, well, the window, well, actually, we're gonna talk about some of it for the, in our rear elevation. But actually, that 1 bedroom that we're talking about upstairs with that, so we have that upper window. At best, that would be in a closet. And in that room itself, that bedroom has, according to our plans, could have at least 4 other windows and a window in the bathroom. All within that quadrant of that corner of the master suite there. And then as for downstairs, with that window, we'd like to remove downstairs. I mean, number 1, it's a kitchen, but number 2, we'd actually like to have, we're gonna have a large sliding glass door right off that kitchen as well on the rear of the building. So. And a very open floor plan, so you can escape anywhere you want, anywhere that's safe.
Provided that you're not trying to get away from your family.
I cannot speak for the for the familial situation of the potential owners of this property.
Okay, so We had a motion, we had a second, we had a discussion, Liz votes yes. George, yes.
George, yes. Dave, yes.
Jesse, yes, thank you. Okay, now we'll go on to item number 2 in the document that Dan submitted. Dan, would you like to tell us?
Sure. As you know, that the rear of the house was just entirely destroyed, so we basically have a blank slate there. So trying to fit something that's within the parameters of what the house is and the basically the view that we'd like to have out of the backyard, which is where we have the ball fields, as well as letting natural light into the kitchen area downstairs and an exit point for the rear patio that's out there. It's basically how why we've come up with what we have here, where we'd like to have some larger windows upstairs. They're all the windows I've chosen, they're going to be 54 inches tall, as opposed to the 66, I think, inches tall, which is around the rest of the house, just so that we have more flexibility for furniture and such like that. Those two on the rear there are upstairs are bedrooms. It's going to be bedrooms across the back, 2 different bedrooms. So we want to have number 1, a lot of good light. Number 2, being able to have some visibility of the ball field behind. And and number 3, with the widths on all those windows are going to be the same widths as the other windows throughout the rest of the house. We just would like to shorten them up just a little bit, make them a little bit taller off the floor, for more flexibility in furniture placement and such. That's why we've come up with what we have upstairs. Downstairs. Now the downstairs of that, in that drawing, we've got an 8-foot slider. Typical height 82 inches, rough opening on the height on that. That is entering into our kitchen. So we're going to have it's going to have a large kitchen there, and what's kind of visible in some of my photographs there is you have an odd layout, but basically there's a patio that's underneath the second floor above you. That's what was in existence, and we'll just keep it as it was. And so the rear of that, we need a door there to be able to access the patio. We'd like to have that be a nice large open slider for visibility and natural light there. And then that small window that's there is just it's a small window that is in a pantry area, a pantry closet right there. So we don't want anything too large in that space, but we do want to have a little bit of light in the pantry there. So in that window, I picked that size because that's actually also, not that it matters, it's totally unrelated, but it is the same size window as those kitchen windows that were above the sink in one of the upper photographs. So I just figured I'd pick that same size. Obviously, all these are going to be all new construction, but we're going to go with the same Marvin Elevate windows, only a new construction version. So they're going to be matching all the other windows in the house. That I shouldn't say all the other windows, the windows that we were already replacing that we talked about a couple meetings ago. On the sides, the east and west of the house is going to be the same.
And
matching.
the sliding glass doors.
I haven't spoken with Bruce Halls yet about which one they recommend. But if you have any recommendations, I mean, actually, it was a question. I mean, are you going to want to see a simulated divided light in the glass door? Is an open pane? What is going to be more pleasing to you all? Because I could do
We're
whatever.
not here to design for you, and I'm not being here, evasive. Propose what you'd like, and it's really up to you. This is not street facing, it's a later L, or it's not. Our biggest concern is that the area facing the street maintain its historic integrity.
And that's going to stay.
And you've kept that front L very kind of appropriate, and the rear L has a bit more fluidity in terms of. So you can come back with a field change.
I'll propose right now. I'll say we will go without simulated divided lights in that, because it's going to be a whole lot. Once you add those divided lights, I mean, price goes way If you say no, then I'll propose the other. But it's a,
I think something just comes under the same kind of rubric, this is a remodel of a damaged rear L. I think I would be honest about that.
Mhm.
So divided lights and a sliding door, they don't have, I mean, people have French doors with divided lights,
Right.
but not sliding doors.
right,
I'm looking at the little tiny window and wondering about the ratio and the size of the lights.
Mhm.
We've done a nice job on the upper story of it's perfectly balanced and symmetrical, which is kind of a nice allusion to the front of the house. But the first floor, we've got everything's kind of shifted to the left or the right, depending, and then the windows, lights, and C currently shown, and that may not be what they're actually doing. They're horizontally oriented rather than vertically oriented, the way all the other windows are vertically oriented.
okay.
Just, it's a thought, it's something I see.
It will.
They don't seem to, because the first
Yeah.
floor and the second floor don't seem to go together to me in this drawing. It looks like two independent buildings that got stacked.
Mhm.
So just, it's simply an observation. I'm not supposed to be designing for you, so I'll be quiet now.
It will match, that window will match, it will get laid out according to whatever that size window has, which I know, like the windows that were in the kitchen. My memory fails me on whether, I think they're more vertical. And so it would match that. Because perhaps it doesn't show it well in this drawing, perhaps it'll be laid out slightly different. This drawing probably doesn't take into effect of like the window pane, the window framing itself.
It's matching the three.
Yeah, those three windows over the sink.
Are those actually, because the rendering makes it look like the little one is also like a double hung sash
Yeah.
construction, and
Yeah.
that's the intention with the ones over the sink as well.
Yep. Yes, that's what is there.
And then you
I
have,
would
it's
replace it.
divided light window as well.
Yes,
Okay, so your
yes,
plan is to match that, huh?
yes.
Trust what's there behind them. Is it board?
Yeah, they are, it's broken panes, but the frame of two, if not all three of those windows are there and they're, I want to say they're vertical, so I think this drawing is not well representing. Perhaps what I'm seeing it like outside is the,
Yeah,
I think what we're seeing is like the outer perimeter there. I think that's more like the trim. And so what's actually lacking out of this is the window itself is going to bring it in on the,
Makes sense.
it's not all pane in between outer trim.
The main roof of the L over the shed roof, is that framed as a Dutch hip? Is that a little hip there? I don't know what it looked like.
Talk about this right here. There's a slight hip to that.
Oh, okay. Where the peak would be here. This is hinged.
Oh, no, that's that's just as it was previously with it. It's a flat. I mean, it's flat, but it's got a slight pitch. It's got a slight pitch downwards in both directions. Right here. I mean, this is more or less flat, but it is.
There's no peak there, right?
Oh, yeah, no peak. It was flat all along.
This right here,
Mhm.
that goes back and meets the ridge of the L.
Yeah, there's two different sections of building there.
I
I'm
mean,
just curious.
there might be a slight,
I think that's a
at
Dutch
least to
hip.
get a little bit of at least a little bit of a pitch away from the,
Sure,
away from the middle, but
sure.
when I was up there back a couple months ago, there's no peak to be noticed from the top.
Okay.
It feels flat. So but it might have a slight pitch to it. I mean, the photograph looks like it has a slight peak to it. So I thought you were talking about the shed roof itself, and that has a slight hip, that has a hip to it, but it's not, that's not what you're referring to.
The L itself.
Mhm.
Does anybody have any additional questions for Dan?
No.
And filling in with matching planners?
Yes.
et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, we're gonna mirror everything else that's in the entire structure. No need to do anything different.
And that side porch treatment?
It's what?
The side porch treatment on the east side, the driveway side porch,
Side porch treatment?
there, and basically, are you doing it? Yeah, recess porch. that side.
Oh, that's gonna stay as it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's gonna stay as it is right now.
Thank you.
I thought I would pull this up on Google Maps if I could, maybe able to look at the aerial, there is an aerial for Cooperstown, we tell us about that route. Maps, oh, come on, Jesse. Aerial.
I would imagine the flooring in that porch area would need some addressing.
Yes.
You could do-
It was charred and we'll put, what's there is, it's like a 2-inch fur.
Are you just
and
looking
that-
over
that
or
do
something? No.
Very similar to what's there.
No, that wasn't there. Okay, I wasn't sure whether we were waiting for you that. Okay. So I apologize, I thought we were waiting. for this.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay, so does anybody want to make a motion regarding the second proposal? With the windows and doors and siding to enclose the rear section of the house?
Sure. Move that provide a certificate of appropriateness for the construction project at 14 under criteria. 2C, 3A, 3B, 3C. 5.
Thank you, David. Anybody want to second that?
George will second that.
Okay, you can choose your second. Okay, any discussion? No. Liz votes yes.
David, yes. Yes.
Thank you, Dan,
All
very
right,
much.
have a great evening.
Appreciate your time.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we have the next item on the agenda is 76 Fair. Is anybody here regarding 76 Fair?
I am.
Okay.
I'm Bill Feinberg, my brother's project on the building.
How are you?
Good, thank you, how are you?
Good, thanks. Would you like to read to us about?
This, he asked me to come and explain to you what I'm gonna do with it, how I'm gonna finish the soffit and fascia. And it's like, it's all, the new part is all framed. I'm waiting to find out whether he'll get permission to raise the roof on the old house is where I'm at with it. I haven't tied the new part to the old part because we have to hash that out and before I tie the two together, but as far as the soffit and the fascia go, the house to the right of little 76 Fair, and I'm gonna match that identically as far as there's probably a 6.5 inch fascia that'll hang down below a half inch below the pre-finished composite material that I think it's either a lot like or it's made by the smart siding people and so and then also with that 6.5 inch fascia there's gonna I'm gonna before the drip edge goes on I'm gonna nail another 2.5 to 3 inch so it kicks the fascia or the drip edge out another 3/4 of an inch, so it's a 2-piece fascia.
Bill, Oh, sorry to interrupt you. My questions about the cornice and the fascia were kind of specific to the part of the roof where Dave was wanting to raise it, kind of, you intend to, I don't know if anybody else had any questions about how that would be tied together, but that was the only thing that I could see that was really missing from the application. I just don't want to.
I think
Don't want to waste.
we should ask if anybody else has any questions about raising the roof before we talk about how it would be tied together.
Probably, yeah, I think this is specific to the extension on the dormer on the backside. And the raising the roof, I think are all that you need to help us wrap our heads around, so.
Yeah, he's gonna have to get your permission obviously in order to raise that roof, and he's gonna have it, engineered. You know, I mean, I certainly could build it, but if the county's not gonna accept that, then, you know,
We need a stamp plan.
I made a few calls to them and they said, file this plan.
Right.
I made a few changes. We're gonna fail it or pass it based on how it was drawn, so.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do that or better. You know.
Right.
It will have cornice return that comes back past the on the gable ends. It's all 12-inch overhang on the soffit and the eaves or the gables. On the eaves and the gables, all matching 12-inch wide overhang, and the returns will again be like just like Larry's onto the house to the right, where it does Larry's cornice returns come back another 6 or 8 inches and you know back into the house beyond the corner board.
Does anybody else have any concerns or
Well,
thoughts specific to the raising of the roof? And the
I have a general concern about raising the roof. I understand the goal of raising the roof. This, the role of our commission is to preserve the street facing view of a building, and that in my mind changes its appearance pretty dramatically. Even if you're trying to re-establish the returns. So I have reservations about it. I'm eager to hear about any concern of the Historic Preservation Board have.
I don't support raising that roof that way. It makes the house different from what it was. This house was designed as a small 2-family house in another time. And I realize that you can, you know, say, well, you know, this isn't the way 2 families live today. But going up another 18 inches, it's something in the neighborhood of 10% of the height of the building. It does alter its scale and mapping in a way that means that we're not preserving the streetscape. The dormer is kind of a problem already, and then go and do this too. It's like, well, what is, you know, this building's history is.
There's two, I think 2 reasons that he wants to raise that roof. Is more headroom and gain more R value in the ceiling. He's probably got an arch. He already gutted the bedroom ceiling toward the driveway, and he's got an R23 rock wool in that ceiling now. He wanted to improve that, and he just wanted more headroom. That the way Teresa drew the back wall of that dormer has to be built for the shed roof dormers that come from where the ridge is now to set on the wall. I've got a beam in place where I'm going to build a wall, and she spec'd that wall out to 8 feet high, you know, from the floor in that dormer. That's a shared bathroom for the 2 bedrooms.
The rear out, you're talking about now, the dormer.
Pardon me?
Which, can you show us what you're talking about when you say the way Teresa back to that, because.
This, if you're standing in the driveway and you look at the original gable end of the house, I see a heat rule here now. That rafter runs from the top, the elevation of the old original ridge. But you know, down here below where he's drawn that. And it runs that roof line runs out to the dormer wall,
And Teresa's spec that out at like 8 foot right now, and I want to, I'm suggesting to my brother that, I think that, code will allow, 7 foot 6 inch high wall there, and that'll help matters. I would get that, bring that rafter down lower. So you have a better, slope on that roof. That's one of the concerns, the slope on the roof. Actually, there's 3 concerns: slope on the roof, the headroom, and the R value. Because it's an old, an old 4x4 rafter that's in there now. That he put 6 inches of rock wool insulation in there, and he already sheetrocked that ceiling, which was really putting the cart before the horse, because that one way or another, that she originally or Teresa's engineer spec'd out 4 28-foot long, 18-inch LVLs to support those little dormer rafters, and we got that engineer. Teresa gave him my number, and I talked to him, and he agreed to back that off to, instead of 4 18-inch 28-foot long LVLs, to back it off to 2 12-inch LVLs to span 28 feet, but also gain more support in the middle of the house. There's load-bearing walls each side of the stairs, which are right in between those bedrooms. So, but either way, in order to pull this off, this low slope roof that goes toward Cleo's, it's like a 20-foot long span. It's only a 1 in 12 pitch, and the only reason it's that much is because I brought it right up tight underneath the 812 pitch, where that soffit is for the 812 pitch on the apartment. But those are, that's not that much of a slope, but those are all, engineered eye joists. They're 16 on center, and I built it, all the exterior walls that are not 2x4. She's theater engineer spec'd them out with a 2x4 wall with, it's a 2x6 wall. That's what's there now. On all the exterior walls are 2x6 with R3 system sheathing, and I'm going to put a R23 rock wool insulation in there for an R26 in the wall, and the ceiling, the low slope ceiling, the 1 in 12 pitch ceiling. I said, you're going to have to, he didn't want to, but I said, he's going to have to spray foam the 2x10 rafters, the 812 pitch up in that apartment, because that's the only way you're going to get enough R value in 9 1/4 inches. Spray foam. And I said, you're going to need to spray foam that, or at least some of that cavity on the 14-inch eye joist, for the rafters for the 1 in 12 slope, because you don't want that roof to get worn. If I or somebody else with a rolled roof on there, it's critical to keep it cold, cold.
So, Bill, can you remember, because we've been seeing a lot of this house, but at this point, I did not go back tonight and look at the house itself. The dormer, is that new, or was that?
No, that's all
earlier? It's all new. So now it's all new, but you're talking about raising the roof of the front and the rear.
He wants to raise the ridge. That's what he wants to do.
But what if?
I agree with you as far as it, dramatically changing the originality of the house. So that's no doubt about that.
And so I've stood on this board long enough. I'm maybe the only person here tonight who has a memory of this, where it goes back to when this building was purchased several years ago by somebody else who really wanted to dramatically change.
You want to tear it down.
But then there was another phase where they wanted to dramatically change the front section. They came with a series of proposals when we wouldn't allow them to tear it down. And we also asked, did not approve their desire to make dramatic changes to the front section of the building, because that is the most historic, most significant aspect of the structure. And so my memory is, we haven't allowed this before. We've really, as I say, you got to dance with the girl you brought. We've really insisted that people maintain the historic character of the front section, the street facing section of the house.
I'm working on this project with a guy that was working on Elm Street before they shut him, the county shut him down, and he said they wanted, the people that owned it wanted to raise the roof on that Elm Street house, and you know, the board shut it down.
And especially the most original street facing portion of the house, it's part of the way the law is written, the state law, the model law about maintaining historic integrity from the public right of way. So that, you know, this, if we allow major changes to this building,
You open the door for everyone else.
yes,
I understand.
yeah.
That's the reason I didn't build this, I didn't go any further, because I don't want to build that wall, tall thing, I want to build it 7.6, so
They have more of a.
yeah, it's not a flat roof.
Right.
And I did the long slope for, I said to Teresa, I said, what's that slope on that one? Because I saw a 2x4 wall, she was going to support it, and she said, maybe 1/4 and 12, and I thought, that's not good.
More like a patio pitch.
Yeah,
Yeah, like Cleo's old patio roof, almost exactly.
Does the other request related to change in the dormers still stand? No matter what happens with the proposal to,
He wants that too. He said Cleo has it drawn, it's like a half the 28 feet, but she's showing the you know, the dormer out the back, and my brother wants to go the whole 28 feet. And they could, the beam that's there now is
and that's on this section. That changing the dormer.
yeah, he wants to, instead of this being here with like it's symmetrical now, with that, like whatever distance each side of it, we want to bring that right out to the gable end.
With windows.
No, I didn't say anything about windows, he just wants to bring it, instead of it being here with the space here and there, he wants it the whole width. That's 28 feet.
Here to here, can you make some marks? Yeah.
Here. Or maybe back in, just a hair over. Just the way it's built now. This right now, that the roof only hangs past the wall, gable end wall, like the distance of an old crown molding or something, you know, kind of reminiscent of a salt box we constructed, but. You know, the front roof is doesn't match it. This front roof is the original soffit is 12 inches wide. He told me he wanted a 12-inch wide soffit on all of it, but if you tell him he can't disturb any of this original part of the house, then he can't do it there. You know, he'll have to leave that.
Well,
Which is, you know, obviously up to you.
it's certainly not something I'm going to vote for. I can't speak for the other members of the board about whether somebody will make a motion to approve that and whether the board would vote in that favor. But it certainly goes against the purview of the board. And that's why I'm trying to break out that proposal from what he's proposing with the dormer. I guess, so, you know, we have information that he'd like to extend that dormer. But is there a drawing to reflect that, or do we know more, how many more windows?
I don't think he wants any more windows. Everything will be just as it is, except these shed roof rafters, which they go from the top of this wall right to the peak of the original ridge. Instead of just being here with, you know, with left and to the right of it, it'll be storage or closet space, you know.
So it'll be a, okay,
I think he's gonna change where the bathroom is.
okay, so it'll be a roof line framing
Yeah.
the windows. So
Yeah,
into-
the dormer will go the whole width of the back of the house.
I think it's the dormer that you're looking at there is actually the dormer on the garage apartment.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah.
That's
So
what
the
you,
only drawing that I have for this proposed change is this last one, and it's just in plan view, and it looks like at one edge, it ends maybe 12 inches shy of the edge of the house, at the other end, maybe be 6 feet shy, and he's bringing it all the way out to flush it up with that elevation on Cleo on the moving side of the property. Yeah.
It doesn't go which it's designed now, it doesn't go the whole width of even the windows aren't in that symmetrical, I just noticed that, but. The side where Cleo, it's almost all.
This is Cleo.
This is for Cleo.
And so this is toward the lake, this is,
This is toward
That's south here.
yeah.
That's south facing, so the road is on the exact
Okay.
opposite
Oh, I
side
get
of the house,
Okay.
and that's looking out over Cleo's yard.
Here's your,
Looking out over this 26 foot long.
Or, sorry, looking into his own backyard.
yeah,
Apologies.
back there.
Which right now is a beam, I gotta put a triple LVL beam in place with a post. Under it, with the roof painted there, but anyway, there's a beam in place there, it's there to carry the floor to the dormer, but it could easily carry it. If you wanted to extend the dormer out to this, to the, this gable end or.
And the goal is to extend it to the.
Well, he's saying that's another thing that I just noticed, because this new part of the construction steps in right there. So, so he can't go out any further than that.
Right, from the plan, from the plan view, it looks like that's where he is. That's where he's proposing, that's where he'd like to end it, and
Yeah.
presumably that's the framing plan, so the roof
Yeah.
line would hang up over a little bit further than that.
Yeah,
But it's inset from the historically original
Yeah.
portion,
yeah.
equal to the other side.
And again, you're gonna have to have an engineer design that, but we could like on what these, this is the studio apartment. Each side of the dormers on that. But here it is, this is facing south, this is the windows facing south out of the apartment. I'm pretty sure. And I have LVLs, like double LVLs on each side of the dormer that the engineer backed out for me, for me in order to put a dormer here. You already have an existing roof and then you want to do a shed roof dormer. You gotta carry the weight of it, that like a trapezoid wall or
Bill,
inside of the door.
we're gonna trust you and the engineers on those.
Yeah.
We're concerned with the exterior volumes and materials.
And so the dormer that's under discussion is located right here though, correct?
Yeah.
That's where, I'm just trying to see it because we don't have other than the plan view,
Yeah.
Right.
we don't have a clear sense of that. Okay.
We can break those windows
For that.
right there.
So I understand why your brother has not paid for architectural and engineer drawings if we're not going to be, if there was a reason we weren't going to approve that.
Just so everybody knows, this is within the side yard setback, and so the zoning board of appeals it would be required for them to hearing that.
Okay.
Variance.
I think, shall we can certainly ask them more questions if anybody has them, but I would like to propose that we break this into two different votes. Where we vote on the proposed change in roof line of the street facing section of the house, and then we can address the dormer in another vote. But are there other questions people have for Bill at this point or concerns? Comments?
I think that's, I'm confused by the dormer on the knee section. I don't get what's going on.
Yeah, it wasn't.
What do you guys think?
Well, I know that's just a comment on roof line part of it. Plays devil's advocate. Once we approved second story garage, had been a one-story garage, a second story with the apartment change, does that a factor at all in terms of now thinking about the appearance from the street. And you now have that higher structure, and does that affect?
Well, I would say then we revisit the second story garage because the consideration is the hardship on the historic structure. The garage is not a historic structure, the street face, the street facing portion of the building, the house is.
Right.
So, if we were gonna weigh it like that, we revisit that decision and say that's creating a hardship on the early structure that's faces the street.
My comment was more in the spirit of, you know, the magnitude of change in appearance, and is that affected by the fact that now we have a two-story structure right next to it, whereas we did not have that before. Does that, affect the sense of change going up 18 inches?
Would compromise our decision making if we were allowing modern changes to weigh.
To inform the historic. And I know what you were saying, and I think I was trying to answer you that if we were gonna weigh that, and maybe we should have, and one of the problems I'm having with this particular project is the snowball effect of one change after another, after another, after another.
Dominoes.
And things, you know, we miss or don't weigh things like that until something like this gets proposed. But really, you know, when we look at the definition of hardship in the law, is it a hardship on the structure? And changing the roof line to respond to a change in a roof line on a auxiliary structure that we approved is a hardship on this structure, if you were to make that argument. But changing the roof line on this structure is a hardship, and it really, it goes against the spirit and the letter of the law we're in place to enforce.
If I recall correctly, also at the time, we did have the discussion that was it acceptable that the kind of the reconstruction of a faux carriage house be taller than the main building. And it was noted that sometimes that is the case, that they were meant to have large attics for storage and hay.
Thank you for bringing that up. George, do you have any questions or thoughts? Dave, did you have anything else?
No.
Jesse, did you have anything else? Would anybody,
We'll go back and visit it in a second.
yeah, would anybody like to make a motion regarding the request to raise the roof at 76 Fair Street in the front portion of the building, the street facing portion of the building? Okay, there's no motion made, so the board is not taking an action on that, and that equals a denial of that request, correct? So we can visit number B, request for field change for the dormer extension. I know that Jessie stated what I've been struggling with is she still doesn't have a clear understanding of what's being proposed.
Yeah, I guess it's a widening of the.
There's a dormer off the second story backside that looks up over the backyard. And it was.
I thought we were talking about it. Are we talking about the dormer that?
It's this dormer, this, if you're standing in the driveway, it's this dormer.
Okay.
And you're gonna there it is. Because this building's, the new construction stepped in 2 feet here, he can't come all the way out to this, out to here with it. He's gonna have to stop back in here somewhere, 3 or 4 feet back in.
Okay.
But this one isn't right out to the the original gable, and if you want to leave it just with what this is the plan that you looked at and agreed to let them go ahead with. If you wanted that back in that foot or whatever, then that's the way I'll build it. And then this one, like I said, this one has to step in because it's going to be on a wall that's going to be
I thought we were,
This is the side facing Pioneer toward the backyard of the house. If you're down in the backyard, you're looking at the back of the studio apartment.
so
here.
this is the carriage barn that's being added.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
so I'm looking at, so this roof is.
That's the original roof.
That's the roof on the face, it's the back face of the roof that
Yep.
aligns with Pioneer Street.
Yep.
And so he wants to bring this out here.
Mhm.
Already is,
In order to support this wall, I've got a beam in place that already does come out and it's supported by studs in this wall, in this 2x6 wall. So structurally, it's very doable for me to bring it out here. He just sees it as a waste of space, he wants more headroom or more storage or more closet room. And that's gonna be 2 bedrooms upstairs, the original bedrooms like it was originally.
So Jesse, this is kind of the footprint, from what I understand, of what you're looking at there.
yeah, I think.
These actually are these are the floor joists, 2x8, 12-inch on center. That's just the floor of the dormer. And then these are 14-inch eye joists, just like all of these. She carried this roof line, back to the old house.
Yeah, this is actually projecting.
Yeah, that's another change that he doesn't want. This concrete, he's gonna do a field flat, like a flagstone patio here where this outline is. And then this, instead of these rafters are all in place, they're cantilevered out and where they don't stick out 12 inches because he was worried that a box truck might back into the overhang, backing in. So you can look at it. These are all cantilevered. These don't require any support under there. There's no beam or anything under there.
And
They're
that's
just,
on the driveway side.
they're just like sticking out 5 or 6 feet, cantilevered out because they're into twice the distance that they're going out. But he wants to stop these here. He wants a 12-inch overhang here. He doesn't want that continuing across.
I was thinking about it. And at the last meeting, we had asked that they work on better reconciling the doors on the garage. As they had 2 pedestrian doors and a garage door in the middle, and they weren't, it was not asymmetrical.
He's got this is the entry door here, door, and he wants to do one here.
Yeah, that's what came to us and we asked for better kind of.
I told them it was denied and that we would ask that we could better reconcile the fenestration on the street facing.
This is the door to the apartment. That's his, just to explain his reasoning for that. This is the door to the going upstairs to the apartment. And this door, if you allow him to put it there, he'll be able to go park in the driveway and go in this door. And you walk about to the halfway into the garage, and then there's another 32-inch door that goes, into the living area.
And you'll understand our confusion with all these things coming and going, flying
Oh,
past.
this brings my mind back to Teresa. Teresa said, didn't he even look at the plans? This is the second set, I think, of $10,000, plans, the second set.
So we understand why it's difficult to come back with proposed changes that haven't been fully rendered by an architect. We can understand how it makes it our job easier, and ultimately you're probably going to need something for.
Yeah.
Regarding any of the changes, which there's already been, I'm concerned because I'm doing it and I want to make sure there's no problems with the county accepting it. And he said, Keith said to me, wherever you've made changes from the original plan, you have to have a letter that specifies, all the changes that you've made from the original plan. A built as letter.
And as built, yeah.
Or as built.
And I think what we would really need to see, there may be folks here may be willing to make a motion regarding the dormer extension as discussed in theory. But I think before a certificate of appropriateness or a field change, is issued, really, it's again, our responsibility to see an appropriate drawing. It doesn't have to be the engineered drawing, but you understand our confusion in trying to understand how this is gonna look.
I understand.
So, we would really need to have a submission of a drawing, that reflects that, so we know what we're clearly approving and it's documented in the files.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. If not, if he doesn't, I don't even know if the two of them are, Teresa and David Feinberg, are speaking to each other. That, that's why Teresa gave the engineer's number to me, and I talked to him. He's in Syracuse, but
Is the constitution of this board at this moment, would you? Pardon me?
I am not going.
Okay, I'm not asking people to make a motion, I'm asking people to give the feedback on whether with a drawing for the proposed, and it doesn't have to be architectural as much as clearly delineated for understanding, would be worthwhile, or we are not willing to consider the proposal at all. That's what I'm asking for the feedback of the members of the board on for this dormer extension.
One more thing to consider, specific to the proposal that David Cleo has moved and the neighboring property has new owners, and David has expressed, that if the new owners don't like it, then he would remove it.
It would be withdrawn,
So if you wanted to wait to see what the ZBA public hearing
That's
results
what
were.
Yeah, I think we're waiting for that as well, and if the new owners have no problem, then having
A more clear drawing, so.
okay, so go tell my brother that he needs to somehow get a hold of the new owners of Cleo's house, and he needs a clear drawing to, showing what the changes he's making.
To the dormer, yes.
Yeah.
And that, we really expect that of all applicants, so that would be very helpful. Thank you, Bill, you have helped us to understand what it was very vague in the past, so thank you. And thank you for your patience in trying to explain it and your understanding about why we could not really consider.
No, you have a job to do, just like the county has a job as far as safety and quality construction, and I have a job to do, so.
Thank you. Thanks for your time tonight.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it.
Bill.
Okay, CR, thank you for waiting. We're gonna look at 17 Eagle Street. Yes, Jack. How are you?
Okay,
So,
am I protecting myself from you or you from?
you never know.
I don't have any horrible disease I know of.
No, it's time to be safe.
You did not have to
I
apologize.
can inhale this thing.
So tell us about the field change you're requesting.
Okay, the porch project has been going on for a long time now. We have had some problems with our contractor between COVID, illness, and now he's scheduled for surgery. The original project, we showed railings on this porch on the south side of the house with square balusters. And that we decided as we went along, he was having a problem time-wise getting back to us because he's undergoing some surgery right now. And we consulted my daughter, who has an architecture degree. She suggested cables across. We didn't consider those appropriate for the building. We did get constructed the wood railing and support. And then we hit upon the idea of this heavy welded wire mesh. The squares are, I think, 1 inch to 1.5 inches square. And since it's black, and the railings are black, it just kind of disappears. And we could even sit on the porch and enjoy the flowers and various things that are around. So we thought that was a good alternative. We're at this point, the county has looked at it and said, fine, it meets the requirements. But they wanted a change, a field change, because we originally got approval for the balusters.
And they know how we are.
Yes. Well, I used to be part of you.
I know, that's teasing.
How high is your porch there?
Off the ground. The porch is, I don't know, I didn't measure,
25 inches.
20.
25 inches.
If you're under 27, you don't need a railing
Mhm.
unless you want a railing.
Yeah, well, we have it in place. We have the wood section. And then we put the wire on to see how that would look.
But as I said, you don't need
27, you don't need
a railing. No.
a railing.
That's why my back porch is the height it is, because
Mhm.
you didn't need a railing.
Okay, well, we did show a railing in the original, of course.
And the original matches the existing porch on the other side of the house, pretty much, right?
Well, yeah, there's probably about a 1946 porch, is an 1880 house. As far as we can tell, when the Lees bought it in 46, they put two porches on, one on the north side, which years ago we extended and added another porch on the second floor. And this one on the south side was a little thing, it was about 5 by 6. And just didn't meet our needs, so we went to the 30 by whatever it is, 8, I think. That was all approved
Yep,
a long time
I
ago.
remember.
It takes us, we have a very good contractor, he's reasonable in cost, he does good work. But it takes you about 2 years to get him to add your project to his schedule.
The Cooperstown member.
Yes, it is. Dave, do you have any questions for CR?
I do not.
Jesse, do you have any other questions for CR?
No, I don't have any other questions.
George, do you have any questions? This is the rear facing, garden facing, yard facing porch,
Right.
correct? So now this street,
Inside.
Yeah. okay, so
And side.
It is quite visible.
would anybody like to make a motion?
We felt too, once we did this and painted the railing black. And with the black, it's a welded wire material coated with plastic, so it's going to be low maintenance. But it kind of disappears.
It's reminding me of what was done on the Stonehouse Gifts store, not exactly, but that kind of use of a very contemporary material for a portion of there. Is it the sub porch railing? And then didn't we let them use wire?
I don't remember. I wasn't here yet.
Okay, yeah.
And I haven't noticed it as something that's jumping off the page at me, obviously. So.
No, you'll notice it when you go by again. And I was a little skeptical, but it does blend in.
I don't think I've gone.
I don't. That's not here.
I had to split your stuff into a couple separate emails, so it's possible that
Yeah.
one got dropped in the process. I apologize.
The historian in me really prefers the one with the painted wood spindles, I have to say. But. Would you like to do a proposal if you want to do a motion or not?
I'm gonna pass, because I don't have the sheet with the.
Wait,
It's sir.
Oh, the- oh,
Recess about
We'll have you.
I think what bothers me about it, CR, is that it looks temporary, and I realize that it is temporary in some way. If this doesn't seem to fit in the house, that's what my problem
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
is. If this doesn't, I just don't see it fitting with the house. It doesn't, but it looks like it's temporary, I
Mhm.
mean, rather than something that's a permanent solution. So, not from a physical maintenance standpoint, but from a visual standpoint.
Yeah. Well, if we put the balusters in, we won't have the view that we like, and there are there are three other kinds of railings on the house.
Okay.
Is there any plan to paint or treat the posts that you've installed?
It will be painted, it's pressure treated.
Right.
So we were told we would have to wait a while before we can paint it. That will be painted. yes.
Will it be matching the rest of the railing
It'll
material?
be matching either the trim or the siding of the house.
Either the trim or the siding, okay, so it'll be white or beige.
Yeah, it's kind of a beige color. Mhm. But part of the cornice is already painted. but
Yep.
The posts still have to be done.
And this staircase that's here, is that a staircase to
Oh,
nowhere now?
the steps you see there were the old steps, we just use them for points.
Oh, okay.
The railing goes across the section.
Yeah.
The steps are at the other end, kind of built under the roof.
Got it.
It's not, I think I want to be a devil's advocate for just a second on that. If we approve this on a side porch that is very visible from if you're walking north on either street. Are we opening up the possibility that someone's going to propose this for a front porch? Because it really probably isn't supportable as a front porch. But this is just very visible from the side. These houses are far enough apart that when you're walking up, you're gonna see what looks like that house doesn't have a railing on the porch. I don't know. I kind of wonder if we're on a slope that we don't want to get on. That's one of my worries here.
I understand what you're saying, and I felt the same way when we approved it for Pioneer Street, the horizontal layer. I have a more ephemeral kind of opinion of this in terms of knowing that this is reversible, the wood structure is still there, and it is not street facing. And you know, if we look at the street facing kind of mandate, there are a lot of places, and believe me, I drove by another place in the village where yesterday where I don't think what we approved was done, but it's a side facing, and which battles do we pick?
Yep.
And it's much more visible in a sense than CR's side facing. And
There's a few projects that I notice have been done that we've never heard about either.
done or approved and done differently than approved, and you know, we don't want to torment Jackson every day.
I should know about these.
And you should know, and you will know, but it is maintaining the street facing, I think is really kind of with something that is this reversible. If we were talking about extreme replacement of materials that were harder to reverse, like windows or siding, versus somebody in a year or two, when CR's contractor is back in good health, CR could say, you know, we really want to go traditional, finish the porch the way it was intended.
Mhm.
And it's easy enough to remove that material and go the way it was intended.
Or just add it.
Right, exactly. Versus it's not so easy to deal with siding, windows, or a major structural change. So that's the kind of way I'm balancing it. I would be more concerned if he were proposing something extreme that was more structural.
Like a dorm. Okay. I'm kind of new to this CR, so I have a question.
Too clear to it. George, do you have a question?
So we're gonna be looking to offer up a certificate of appropriateness.
If you're comfortable making that motion.
I would be comfortable making that motion.
Okay. And are there any other questions for CR or comments before George makes a motion? Okay.
I make a motion to approve the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness. And I would need help. I would need a little bit of help. Sit here for 15 minutes.
Who wants to give George any peanut gallery suggestions here?
I wanna go wash my hands.
Okay.
I just touch the patch that I have.
Oh, okay.
The kitchen's just right through that side.
Or the other way.
Or the other way, yeah,
They changed the bathroom.
yes, they did.
I think that one went through the floor.
That is easy.
No, it isn't. No, it never is. Could say 4C probably.
4C.
And 4I.
4I.
And probably 5.
And 5.
Thank you. Thank you for putting yourself out there and doing it. Should I give Dave this cheat sheet back?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. We'll let Jesse come back in the room.
Well, that's not mine.
Jesse, would you like to know the numbers and letters?
I don't.
Okay. Okay, would anybody like to second? Okay, thank you. Okay, any discussion? Okay, Liz votes yes.
Yes.
Would you vote yes? Did you vote?
Julie, take us.
I'm not saying, not telling you have to, but. Okay, all right, yeah, thank you for your time and your patience tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you a certificate you can share with the county.
You're questioning that?
Yes, sir, I will.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir.
Okay, so now we have item number 7, Iroquois Barn, Kevin, thank you for waiting.
Thank you very much for your time.
What else would you like to do?
Okay, there is it's approximately 750 square foot agricultural barn shed somewhere in between that we would like to remove. Yes, the deer handling equipment was kept inside there, and the last deer died of natural causes last fall. Yep.
I guess I didn't realize the deer population had been dwindling.
Yeah, there were, well, obviously I haven't been here, but I know there was quite a population even 10 years ago, but yeah, just.
Boy, you take it for granted and then it's gone. So, removal of the deer equipment shed.
So this shed is not on the tax roll, it's not on.
I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure it's not in the investment combination.
No.
I might go to it, because I know where it is, and at that point, I wouldn't have scooted down there to have a look at it, so.
Telephone poles in the ground and a dirt floor.
Yeah, and I don't think, I would have made it non-contributing even if I had reported it in the district. I don't know what it is. It's just a block on the landscape at this point.
Yeah, it's not in track of building and it doesn't have a use at this point, so.
But it is a little bit more substantial than a building that can be like moved forklift. Which would make it a bit of a thing that we wouldn't even need to review, so I don't know.
Oh, I can move it with a forklift.
You can-
Yeah.
I don't know if I can send it back down to the beach.
Yeah.
Move it right into the ground with the forklift, is that what you said?
Down.
The way the law reads, and Jackson, you can correct me, I'll request for demolition need public hearings. So I'm sorry that you sat here to learn that we have to schedule a public hearing at the next meeting. They are first on the agenda, so you won't have to sit through the whole meeting. But we will put a public hearing on the agenda for the February meeting, and I think that's February 8th, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong, so.
First? No.
Yeah, first.
First is in.
Is the first.
The 14th.
14th. Oh.
Valentine's Day.
Would be more romantic. Wonderful. Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time. Is there any other information that'd be useful for you all ahead of that?
I think it's not contributing, and the condition of the building, you've documented.
And
Does anybody need to see anything else?
it doesn't seem to have a use anymore, so. It's just gonna become a problem, an attractive nuisance.
Or an unattractive nuisance.
Thank you all very
Thank
much.
you
I
for
appreciate
your
it.
patience. Okay. Are you two here for 23 Lake Street?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your patience. Come on up and tell us about the project.
Sorry for, the emergent situation, but it's not safe is the issue. So, it's kind of been, essentially neglected, so now with the snowfall, the roof is caving in, the back is bowing, so we're afraid it's gonna fall.
And this is a picture of your structure?
Sure, the roof.
Right, the back portion.
So that's gonna be the cast slide portion of the.
Right, so I'm afraid to go inside, so the pictures I took are kind of from the windows and everything, so. Initially, the thought was to get, money from insurance to fix it, but now it's kind of gotten too long, like we received estimates, but then it's like, we're gonna have to take down before we can build it again anyway, so that's kind of, but it's a safety thing above everything.
Does anybody have any questions for Kristen or Fred?
So this is. So it faces the Hoffman Lane.
Right, so
You're on the other side from the Membrino.
I'm sorry?
You're on the other side of the street from the Membrino.
Right, well, no, so it's directly next to the Membrinos.
Okay.
So they're looking in this every day. So the intention would be to take it down, then once, there's financing to rebuild as closely as we can to, because it was a carriage house, so, and the idea eventually, but hopefully to be able to do a living space above, to have the garage below, but that's again in the future, a separate issue.
This is the second person who's waited the entire meeting to hear that they've got a demolition permit.
Yeah, so we have.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, Valentine's Day, any demolition requires a permit. Yeah.
Okay, so like,
This wet snow coming.
right, it's just like it's like, if we don't take it down, it's gonna fall. You know what I mean? There's like a 4-year-old in the house, you know what I mean? Like there's cars, there's people. I know they're,
In that building?
yeah, in the 23 Lake Street house,
Not as fair.
right,
But,
so,
so nobody's occupying that building, and you can keep the cars and the 4-year-old away from that building.
right, but,
Because the law requires that a public hearing take
Right,
place before, that's why we just had to tell Patrick
right.
to tell that we needed to do a public hearing.
So you're saying another month out?
Yes,
All right. So, and then if it falls,
you don't have to pay for it to take it down.
right, but if somebody gets hurt,
Yeah, clean it up though.
because it's not insured, the insurance isn't insuring it, so if something falls. And who's, you know what I mean, like, I'm just like seriously concerned, like, it's a real concern, like, this has been like this for a few years now. So like, if it, because it could fall this way, it could fall in, it could fall, there's the house, the garage, like 6 inches away, you know what I mean? So like, and it's not insured.
We need how many days notice for a public hearing, Jackson? 10?
For demolition, it's 10, yeah.
Okay.
We have to publicly
Okay,
notice.
right, okay, so, okay.
So it's, you
10
know,
days
it's the
at least,
law.
too. Okay, so is the 10 the minimum?
Yeah.
That's fine,
and-
okay.
But we also have to then set, you know, get to the point where we could have another meeting, which I can't even
Okay.
commit to.
Right,
So
Right, we barely were able to have.
it has to get noticed.
understood.
We have to get a quorum, which
Okay.
was a problem
Right.
tonight, and you saw.
That I ran into someone on the street and then thought that it was getting late.
Right.
It's okay. We have one of our members who is out of state through the end of the month. So, you know, it gets complicated. I understand what you're saying.
Right,
Um,
that's just what you can tell me. I understand. Okay.
I
Yeah.
would say that it is old timber frame.
Mhm.
It is very point loaded with a lot of redundant structural elements in it. If it's about to fail, it's probably about to fail at one post in the middle. And if that's an actual safety concern, you can slap a brace on it and a stake in the ground. And I bet that would go a long ways towards keeping it from collapsing into the backyard. It does not look like it's about to give way on either of the cable ends to me.
Yeah, it more fell in like just this path, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of, it's
I'm
gonna,
just worried about the wet snow that
right,
they have having to test, you know, try to speed things up there a little bit.
So if speed is your concern, that's not gonna.
No, it's just the fact that eventually we're gonna get a storm
it's gonna fall.
and it's gonna be a hazard.
All right, so
There's-
what's the paper?
Plus the fact that
What's the form
this is the time to demo
the form.
that street.
for the demo? Like, so what's,
Get lost around. Yeah.
So we set a public hearing, which
Okay.
right now, unless there was some ability to move a public hearing sooner, which is the point of noticing neighbors, which doesn't just happen tonight.
right,
The village clerk actually has to do it, the point of getting public notices out. All of those things take time, and then it has to be out for 10 days before a hearing can take place.
Okay.
So by the time we do that, we're more than halfway to the next
Right.
meeting.
okay,
I understand Fred's concerns, but this is the way the law reads. And you know, I cannot commit to offering a date for a hearing sooner than the next meeting.
okay,
Jackson may want to speak to the clerk, and if something is feasible, that he can let you know.
okay,
But at this point, we will set a public hearing for the February Historic Preservation Board meeting. It will be at the beginning of the meeting, so you don't have to sit through the whole meeting.
all right.
I'm very sorry.
That was very interesting.
Well, I just, thank you.
Sort of got a lot of extra credit.
Continuing education credit.
Right?
We're here every month,
Right,
and we don't charge admission.
What's that date?
February 14th, Valentine's Day,
right.
right?
So it's a date, I guess, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, okay, so I don't have to do anything, that's all I meant.
That's
Okay,
then,
okay.
if
All right.
there is the ability to publicize, notify, and schedule around all of the other village meetings,
Okay,
a date.
Would
Yes,
we
we'll
need
let you
to
know.
technically attend? If that's all that you're lacking, is that just that?
There is not a mandate to attend. We
Okay.
have a public hearing on this schedule today where the owners presented to us last month and we set the date for the public hearing. If somebody were to come to contest it,
Mhm.
a neighbor,
right,
you know, that is where you may want to be available to answer
Right.
questions.
Gotcha.
That would be that's why I kind of hedge. We don't require that somebody attend. But if there were a need to attend,
right,
other than the picture of the roof caving in.
right, yeah,
Um,
we've had the neighbors weigh in on it and what they think we should
Yeah.
do,
So, but that would be the only.
They may ask
reason.
how long is it gonna take?
Yeah,
What-
oh, understood,
What
okay,
the environment would be like during
Right,
the
okay.
time things are being.
Okay.
Especially with closed neighbors,
Right.
they may have concerns like that.
right,
So,
right,
those have been questions regarding demolitions recently. There have been neighboring property owners who have had very specific concerns. Now, your neighbors will have the same concerns I can't speak to, but that would be a reason to have some thought about Fred's done this before, he knows what he has to do, he can say, this is what I have to do. This is how I'll control dust, debris, you know, safety hazards, things like that.
Is there any way we can temporarily shore it up to prevent a collapse?
There's some bracing.
What Jackson suggested?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh,
And perhaps, you know, a caution sign.
that's a good idea, right?
I could probably get some barrels from Mitchell. Some yellow tape,
Yeah.
put them down there.
Mhm.
Apologies, I'm a timber framer and I can totally fix that building up and I think it's adorable.
Right.
So, my bad.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm not a voting member of this body either. I know it's expensive to fix it.
Right. So, all right,
We still have a dirt floor thing,
right,
so.
right. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night. We'll
See you next month.
See you.
I was gonna say party here.
Yeah, we'll be here.
Next, two more quick items, folks, that aren't on the agenda, if people have the ability to hang out for a few more minutes. 43 Lake Street, remove asphalt shingle roof, replace with standing seam metal roof. Are we talking about the whole building, Jackson?
This appeared on my desk. This is like the third or fourth time we've looked at this one and haven't had a sample. This appeared on my desk. I don't see how it is it snapped together, what the fastening mechanism is, so we could look at it or not. But
I'm not sure how much of what building.
it's the whole roof.
They're the whole roof on the main wall.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on the agenda, so nobody had a chance to take a look at it, right?
Right. No, it was just in my stack because
Yeah.
it's an unresolved thing and I showed up one day and this was addressed to me with improving this.
That's gifts, yeah.
So that's hard to be very out of that individual, there, you know, when I ask for literature, I get a whole website, et cetera. I think that generally speaking, metal roofing is an improvement over asphalt roofing, but I know that there are other concerns and sometimes it means the snow slides off faster.
Well, my
faster.
Well, my concern was it wasn't on the agenda
Right.
for this month, so I didn't get to go over and look at it and think about it in the context
Got
of.
I think it's
What
been on
metal
the
roofing?
agenda about 3 times.
Yeah.
So we can just, they're not, nobody's roofing right now anyways, but.
Right, unless,
now,
yeah,
metal, do a metal roof in the middle of the winter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Slide off into the neighbor's garden.
The other one is the gentleman who purchased the home right next on Walnut, next to the entrance to the side entrance to Price Chopper. He is looking at doing some improvements there. He stopped by today and I thought that they were really specific to windows and siding. It's a mix of vinyl siding and shakes. And he would like to remove all of that and replace it with vinyl siding. I don't know if that's considered in-kind repair and replacement. In-kind replacement. And
We're gonna
then
be approaching that question, I'm sure.
say again.
That's a problem. That's a question we will be approaching much more often in the coming years.
Right,
There's a lot of aluminum siding.
right. And it brings to light the point that there's no repair possible. And that's one of the problems with vinyl is it's not,
Right.
does not open, there's no way to.
and did he
Acceptable.
give you specs for windows or did?
Anderson 100 series, I do believe is what he's got there in that. That's the whole
Let's see.
magazine at the back.
This is here today.
Yes.
It did, so.
It does say something on the on-top application now, doesn't it, about timing?
Yes, it does. Yep. So we don't have to review it or make any decision, but I guess my question would be, is vinyl replacing vinyl in kind? And if the first floor is shakes or and the second
Sorry, shingle.
floor is vinyl.
I know exactly where they're talking.
Either way, that house is just so beat up and
Yeah.
it's gonna be an improvement, but we need to navigate our way there, so.
Is he planning changes to the porch or anything, or he just addressed the side?
I think he's got in there, he wants to replace the lattice with square lattice rather than diagonal, in-kind replacement. His porches are really beat up. I spent an hour or so walking around the house with him about a couple of months ago.
It's a 2-unit house.
At least 2, if not.
At least 2, yeah, it might be more. Some of the windows are broken open and inoperable, so there are some.
Is it vacant now? For a long time it was vacant.
I do not know. There have been fresh piles of things shown up on the lawn. Here and there. I think it sounds like he's got it vacant because it sounds like he's looking at the walls from the inside. And there are clapboards under some of that vinyl. He just doesn't have any idea how many of them are preservable. And, you know, again, putting a finger jointed pine or something compared to the old cedar is not going to be a big find. So if it's too late in the day to consider that, that's fine. I just wanted to toss it in there in case we flew through stuff.
Why don't we leave that sitting on the back burner while we close the public hearing before we forget to do that? And then we can let everybody see where that's simmering.
All right.
George, did you get to see that information too? Okay. So, nobody showed up regarding the public hearing at 87 Beaver Street. Do we have a motion to demolish the front porch at 87 Beaver Street?
So moved.
Thank you, David. You have a second. I will second it. Discussion? Okay. Liz votes yes.
David, yes.
We'd love to know more about that porch. Probably not gonna find out.
Yeah, I struggled with it, but you kind of convinced me at the last meeting that it was okay.
Right. I think that, I'm pretty sure it came from somewhere else, but just want to know where it came from. But since they're planning on keeping the basements and using them, I'm going to say nothing.
I also struggle and just curious is demolishing it is just the first step. Then, you know.
They did show us the proposal at the last meeting, so we haven't approved that yet. They did not get us the updates we asked for and the specifics we asked for.
Do they need to go hand in hand though? Do they need to be married up?
It's a good question. We could make the demolition approval contingent upon the approval of the replacement, correct?
That's a good idea.
And yeah, you know, without holding another public hearing, the demolition permit can read like that, correct, David? Oh my God, I need to go.
Yeah.
Stanford's not here, so I'm calling you, David, now, Jackson. David, George, that's a very good point.
I like that idea very much. I think we approved the demolition at 76 Fair before seeing the final plans on that, and it's maybe uncomfortable. So I like the idea there.
It's still making us uncomfortable.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and you know, I
think I voted no.
I don't know if we can ever stop projects from snowballing, but this is a perfect example of what we need to try. Anyway, we're digressing. Go ahead, George. I'm sorry if I cut you off, but does that sound fair to make the demolition contingent upon approval of plans for the new port?
Method plans, please, that will count the proportions of the building.
What kind of plans again, Jesse?
Something measured, so that the scale drawings and the ones that we got last time are out, wow, pretty far are out of scale, and it's just really hard to understand what you're really proposing when you don't have a scale. So,
Yeah. We can imagine things, but we really need,
we're not
More
supposed to be in the
concrete.
business of imagining as well.
Not at all.
yeah.
We're in the business of proving what was given to us, right? Or not.
Okay, so,
So, George.
that demolition contingent upon approval of replacement plans has been voted on. We're good, correct? Okay. We'll give George a second to take a look at that. I'm not going to insist we make a decision tonight because nobody had this before them. If people feel like it's a no-brainer, one way or another, or we want to give the new owner some direction, we can do that.
I would like to see the new owner to have that to talk to us. This has got several moving parts in it, and it's, you know, there's complexity enough that I do want to actually hear from the owner. Just to get a sense of how the plan to do this.
And again, to prevent a project from snowballing, because there's a lot of exposure there. Again, you've got 2 right-of-ways there. So,
I just remembered that, the plan. For 87 Beaver was to reuse some of the material from the existing porch.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know, I think waiting to get more information makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, and I agree, you know, we're always asking the owners to speak to us about their plans, and it would be good because of the exposure and because there are more complicated things that are gonna have to be dealt with to understand how that's gonna be approached.
I recall now that he had a child's basketball game this evening, but he's been trying to get in here. So I'll ask him to.
Join us for Valentine's Day, we'll have a party.
I would say that there's nothing redeemable of value about the existing windows, as far as I can tell.
So,
No, I mean, the house has been a tenant property for a very long time.
Yep.
It's not a great location. I mean, the house has potential as a pleasing building. It was probably a pleasing building when it was constructed, but it has been beaten about the head with a stick
Indeed.
for a long time.
and then neglected.
Yes.
Perhaps, yeah.
And so I'm happy someone wants to do something with it, but I'd just like to have a sense of what comprehensive would it like to do with it rather than the sort of piecemeal application.
Understood.
Because I think that it's got enough stuff going on that we could get it, we could have a complete lack of understanding of what's actually on the owner's mind.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
Understood.
I agree. But I applaud him for buying it and trying
Yeah.
to do something with it. I think that's great.
I completely agree, and it could be a charming building. It's just that its location has been troublesome for it. But there's no longer a railroad that goes right past it. If you have the supermarket entrance next to it, but it's near the school, which means it's a potentially good site for someone who's got kids. Come back home to increase our school population.
I can't thank everybody enough for hanging in there tonight. I know that
I didn't expect this to be.
I did not either.
Pulled out the agenda, so what?
And the minutes are good.
Yes.
Yeah,
Marcia,
thank you.
they really are good.
So everybody was here last month, so we can vote to approve the minutes of the December meeting. Yes, Elizabeth, Jay.
David, yes.
George, yes.
Usually someone makes a motion.
I'll make that motion. Who's gonna, Jesse second that motion? Dave seconded it. Do you want to write?
I'm starting, yeah.
Is our meeting adjourned, so I can shut the public
Yes, you may.
video off?
You've been dying to do that, haven't you? Anybody who hung in and watched us to the bitter.
Yeah.